I don't have the same passion as he does. He's very hungry. He just acquired the first world title. I've already acquired my second world title. Like Deontay said, I'm at.
What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So what you just heard was the voice of former unified welterweight world champion superstar boxer Keith one-time Thurman, who is now 31 wins, 1 loss, no draw, 22 wins by way of knockout. Keith Thurman is 33 years of age, 5'8", with a 69-inch arm reach. With that said, many people question and wonder, where's the hunger? Where's the drive from Keith Thurman? This is an interview you heard from Keith Thurman in 2017, in which Keith Thurman, he let you know he's not hungry like he once was, okay? And this is in 2017.
Saw that boy backstage years ago, and I told him eye to eye, I look forward to seeing you in the ring one day, because I knew he was the Olympian. I knew he was that young gun coming up. And, you know, I don't have the same passion as he does. He's very hungry.
I don't have the same passion as he does, and he was referring to undefeated, unified, now 3-belt WBC, WBA, IBF, welterweight world champion, superstar boxer, who is widely considered by many to be top 3, number 2, or possibly number 1 best pound-for-pound fighters in the world, in Earl the True Spence Jr., who is now 28 wins, no loss, no draw, 22 big wins by way of knockout, 32 years of age, 5'9.5" with a 72-inch arm reach. So Keith Thurman, he told you back then he wasn't hungry, okay? So it's not a surprise as to why Keith Thurman has been very inactive, okay? Why Keith Thurman, you know, has looked vulnerable in some of his last fights, you know. So Keith Thurman, he just simply, you know, let you know he's not hungry, okay? This was back in, again, 2017, after he defeated 2-division world champion Puerto Rican superstar boxer Danny Swift Garcia for the WBC, and he held the WBA titles, and Errol Spence was trying to unify the belts. Well, this lets you know, if Keith Thurman wasn't hungry back then to face Errol Spence in a massive unification bout, and then Keith Thurman, he started to talk about and discuss the possibility of fighting undefeated 3-division world champion, former junior welterweight undisputed world champion, currently the reigning WBO, World Boxing Organization, welterweight world champion, who is widely considered by many to be the number 1 best pound-for-pound fighter in the world, in Terrence Bud Crawford. Terrence Crawford is 38 wins, no loss, no draw, 29 big wins by way of knockout. He is 34 years of age, 5'8", with a 74-inch arm reach. He's actually older than Keith Thurman. And Keith Thurman, he stated that Terrence Crawford needed to prove himself when he came to the welterweight division. And then he stated that Terrence Crawford was too small. Then he stated that, you know, you didn't need the WBO belt. He's a traditional boxing historian. And so he said that the World Boxing Organization belt came into a major sanction belt in the 2000s. And so he started to say, well, you don't need the WBO title to be undisputed, and he's a traditional fighter, so he just needed to collect the WBA, WBC, and IBF titles, okay? Then this past November, when Terrence Crawford beat a rival foe of Keith Thurman and a close friend in 2-time welterweight world champion superstar boxer Showtime Sean Porter, that was November 20th of 2021, Keith Thurman, he stated he saw some vulnerabilities in Terrence Crawford that he felt like he can exploit. And he stated that he wanted to, you know, fight Terrence Crawford in July, his get-back fight. Keith Thurman was out the ring since July of 2019. Okay, he came back February 5th of 2022 against former WBA regular junior welterweight Mexican star world champion in Mario Barrios, who moved up in weight after coming off a knockout loss to 3-division world champion superstar boxer Gervonta Tank Davis. He moved up to welterweight, and Keith Thurman struggled. But in that fight, Keith Thurman, he stated that he wanted to fight, give him 8 months and he'll fight Terrence Crawford, which would have been July, because he said this in November after Terrence Crawford's win over Sean Porter, his stoppage win. He'll fight Terrence Crawford in July. Well, July came and went. We're heading into August now, and there's been no Keith Thurman sightings, okay? Again, he fought March of 2017 against Danny Garcia. He didn't come back to January of 2019 when he fought Josito Lopez. Then he fought in July against Manny Pacquiao, which he suffered his only loss. Then we didn't see Keith Thurman from July of 2019 until February of 2022. So he fought Danny Garcia in 2017. He came back 2 years later. He fought Josito Lopez and Manny Pacquiao. That's 3 fights. Okay. Then he had another 2.5 year, almost 3 year hiatus. Comes back. He fights Mario Barrios. So he has 4 fights in almost 5 years. Okay. And he let you know in this interview he did with Errol Spence, he wasn't hungry. So now July came. The WBC, World Boxing Council, President Mauricio Suleiman, board of 32 members, decided to make Keith Thurman the title eliminator, mandatory challenger for Errol Spence's WBC title. Out of nowhere, Keith Thurman said he was even surprised when he got the announcement, and he was informed. So Keith Thurman, after the fight, he was asked about Terrence Crawford, because that's what he said he wanted to do in July. And then he started to tell the world that he didn't want to fight Terrence Crawford because he was going to go the WBC route and look to pursue Errol Spence. Now, Errol Spence, he won his first title, like Keith Thurman said, in 2017 against former IBF welterweight world champion, British superstar boxer, Special K. Kell Brook. Keith Thurman beat Danny Garcia the same year. So they were looking to unify. Keith Thurman stated that it was going to happen down the line, as you hear. And then Keith Thurman, he went on to say that he was going to have a get-back year in 2018. He still wasn't going to fight Errol Spence. He didn't do that. He didn't even come back in 2018. He came back in 2019, okay? And in 2019, he still said he wasn't going to fight Errol Spence. So he gave Errol Spence the runaround. Errol Spence wasn't happy. And until this day, Errol Spence lets the world know he has no interest and will never fight Keith Thurman. And he stated, when I said never, I meant it, okay? He's never going to fight Keith Thurman. So now Keith Thurman turns down Terrence Crawford. Then Keith Thurman is asked about fighting undefeated, rising welterweight superstar title contender Jerron Boots Ennis, who's 29 wins, no loss, no draw, 27 big wins by way of knockout, 25 years of age, 5'10" with a 74-inch arm reach. And once again, Keith Thurman is doing the same thing to Jerron Boots Ennis as he did to Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford. And he's saying that he initially stated he didn't know who Jerron Boots Ennis was. Then after he did a few interviews and people kept asking him, he stated, well, he knew who Jerron Boots Ennis was, but Jerron Boots Ennis reminded him a lot of himself, Pernell Whitaker, Terrence Crawford, and Floyd Mayweather. And he stated that the young pup, he would possibly fight him, but he didn't give anything concrete, okay? Now, Steven Espinosa, Showtime president of sports, says that he would love to make Jerron Boots Ennis, who he signed to a multi-fight deal, against Keith Thurman. It's being reported Keith Thurman is asking for $10+ million to fight Jerron Boots Ennis. Jerron Ennis, is pursuing, says he wants to fight Keith Thurman in October, or he's just going to go the route of Stanionis, in which Keith Thurman recently came out and he stated that he let Jerron Ennis know that he's not a gatekeeper. He's just not as hungry as everybody else because he's already proven a lot. Well, this just lets you know the mindset of Keith Thurman. Once again, letting you know he's just not hungry. Keith Thurman hasn't been hungry since he beat Danny Garcia. He was hungry to get the fight with Danny Garcia. He was hungry to beat Sean Porter, and he did so, and he hasn't been hungry ever since. And this interview is just confirmation of that. And his recent comments about Jerron Ennis, I'm no gatekeeper. I'm just not as hungry as they are, and be careful what you wish for. We'll make the fight happen, okay? He used to say he had an O and he wasn't afraid to let it go. Well, now, he don't have the O anymore. He has nothing to lose, and now he wants to pursue the fight with Errol Spence. So it looks like, first of all, the fight that everybody wants to see is Errol Spence versus Terrence Crawford. That's the biggest fight in the sport of boxing. Once upon a time, it was Keith Thurman versus Errol Spence, and it was Keith Thurman versus Kell Brook. He never made neither one of those fights come to fruition. But he used to say Errol Spence was his Manny Pacquiao fight, like Floyd Miller, Manny Pacquiao, but he eventually got Manny Pacquiao and he lost the fight. So Keith Thurman is just not hungry. I believe Keith Thurman has, he got 1.5 foot out of the sport of boxing. I believe Keith Thurman at this point in time is, the sport of boxing is a business for him. It's revenue. If he can gain revenue to take care of his family and feed his family, I think that's where Keith Thurman's mind is. I don't think it's on building his legacy. Leading up into this Mario Barrios fight, he stated that he wanted to build his legacy. It was the second career for him, and he was going to show the world he was still Keith Thurman. We haven't heard much from Keith Thurman. And on top of that, he's shown vulnerabilities. He was badly hurt by Josito Lopez in his comeback fight. He was badly hurt by Manny Pacquiao after the Joselo Lopez fight. And he was hurt badly by Mario Barrios in his last fight, spitting on his mouthpiece, running around the ring with body shots. That's a lack of commitment to the sport. So we have to see. Jerron Ennis says he wants to fight with Keith Thurman in October. Steven Espinosa, Showtime President Sports, said he would love to make the fight. It's all up to Keith Thurman. Errol Spence said absolutely not going to happen. Terrence Crawford is not interested. So let's see where this goes. But that's all I got for y'all. Make sure you hit the like button. Drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue. Blue Blood Sports TV. Hate, like, comment, and subscribe. You haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button. Hit the bell icon to get all the new notifications. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Blood Sports TV. All one word. Y'all already know what it is. Shout out to the entire LDBC. Shout out to New Media. Shout out to Black Media Row. Make sure you like your shitty videos. That's all I got for y'all. Peace.